I trust the compound isn't too far away, Thrawn said, as Thurfian's car flew swiftly across the Rentor landscape. I'm already missing all of today's classes. My instructors would be displeased if I missed tomorrow's as well.
You'll be all right,
Thurfian said, hearing the strained patience in his voice. Did the boy really not understand the depth of the honor that had been bestowed upon him? Apparently not. Attending his classes was important. Adoption into one of the 9 ruling families wasn't. Rentor wasn't exactly a political and cultural hub, and Thurfian knew he had to make allowances for a certain degree of ignorance. Even so, such a lack of awareness set Thrawn apart from even the unsophisticated commoners around him. Still, if Bakif's assessment was correct, the boy would be heading for a military career. Politics weren't nearly so important there. If Thrawn was rematched to the Mitth, which was hardly yet guaranteed. Thurfian had sent in his own report, but there was still an interview to be conducted by the counselors who oversaw Mitth interests on Rentor, followed possibly by a short meeting with the local patrial herself, if the counselors were suitably impressed. Once all that was over, the results would be forwarded to the homestead on Chila for final review, and only then would Thrawn learn whether or not he'd been selected to be a Mitth merit adoptive. The whole process typically took 2 to 3 months. Thurfian had seen it take as many as 6. His Questus signaled. Pulling it from his pocket, he keyed it. It was a script message, a very brief script message. Thrawn accepted as merit adoptive. Thurfian stared. Accepted? Impossible. The interviews, the patrial evaluation, the homestead review. But there it was, staring him in the face. The process had been short-circuited by someone, and none of the usual procedures were going to matter. In fact, none of them were now even necessary. Presumably, the patrial had received the same message, and the only thing that would happen when they reached the compound would be the brief ceremony detaching Thrawn from the Kivu family and rematching him to the Mitth. Is there trouble? Thrawn asked.
No, nothing,
Thurfian said, putting the Questus back into his pocket. So on the strength of Thurfian's own interrogation, plus perhaps the boy's school records and evaluations, he was accepted? That made no sense. Impressive though the boy might be, there still had to be more to it. Clearly, someone high up in the family had been keeping watch on Thurfian's mission today. That same someone had apparently also been following Thrawn's life, and had already decided that taking him was in the Myth's best interests. So if the decision had already been made, why had Thurfian been sent to do an interview in the first place? Surely his recommendation didn't hold that much weight with the homestead. Of course it didn't. Thurfian had been sent here to help cover the fact that Thrawn had already been selected for rematching. Pure politics. Because with the 9 families, it was always about politics. He frowned, his thoughts belatedly catching up with him. He hadn't reacted in any way when he received the message. He'd been an aristocrat and political creature long enough to know how to keep emotions like surprise out of his face and voice. Yet, somehow Thrawn had recognized that the message had been disturbing enough to inquire about it. He eyed the boy again. That kind of observational skill wasn't common. Maybe there was more than he'd realized. Some spark that would someday bring honor and glory to himself and his family. Apparently someone at the homestead thought so too, and that someone had determined that the family on the receiving end of that glory would be the Mitth. There was still the question of whether or not the boy would be sent to the Teharim Academy. But with Vuron's unidentified benefactor pulling the strings, Thurfian expected that would also be a foregone conclusion. He scowled at the landscape racing past beneath them. He didn't like being manipulated. He very much didn't like proper and time-honored procedures being thrown out the window on someone's whim. But he was an aristocrat of the Mitth, and it wasn't his job to approve or disapprove of his family's decisions. His job was merely to do the tasks he was given. Perhaps someday that would change.
No trouble,
he said.
I just received word that you've been accepted.
Vuron turned widened eyes on him. Already?
Yes,
Thurfian confirmed, secretly enjoying the other's confusion. So he could be surprised. And at least he knew enough politics to recognize the unusual nature of the situation.
We'll presumably go through the ceremony when we reach the compound.
As a merit adoptive, I assume?
So the kid also knew something about the ruling families.
That's where everyone starts,
Thurfian told him.
If and when you go through the trials, you'll move up to trialborn.
And then, ranking distant,
Vuron said thoughtfully. Thurfian huffed out a silent breath. That, at least, would never happen. Not to someone from such an insignificant family.
Perhaps. For now, just start getting used to the name Mitth Ronuru.
Yes,
the boy murmured. Thurfian studied him out of the corner of his eye. The boy might bring glory to the Mitth, the way Bakif thought. He might just as easily bring shame and regret. That was how the universe operated. But either way, it was done. Vuron was no more. In his place now stood Thrawn.